Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Khoj Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Today's recitation is the 16th pauri from Var Rag Maj, Mahalla Pehla. Slok Mahalla Pehla, Kalkati Raje Kasai, Dharam Pankh Kar Ud Raya, कूड़ अमावस सच चंद्रमा दिसे नाही कह चढ़िया हऊँ पाल विकुन्नी होई आदे रै राहो न कोई विच हऊँ में कर दुख रोई कहो नानक किन बिद गत होई महला तीजा कल कीरत प्रगट चानन संसार गुरमुख कोई उतरै पार जिसनो नदर करे तिस देवै नानक गुरमुख रतन सो लेवै पौड़ी भगतां ते संसारियां जोड़ कदे ना आया करता आप अभुल है ना भुलै किसे दा भुलाया भगत आपे मेलियन जिन सच्चो सच कमाया संसारी आप खोआयन जिन कूड़ बोल बोल बिख खाया चलन सार न जाननी काम क्रोध विस वधाया भगत करन हरि चाकरी जिनी अनदिन नाम ध्याया दासन दास होए कै जिनी विचों आप गवाया उन खसमे के दरमुख उज्जले सच्चे शब्द सुहाया. So in this passage, Guru Nanak refers to Kali, Kalkati. Kali refers to Kali Yuga, or the age of darkness. And in the Indian systems, there is this idea of yugas or ages as part of a cosmic time cycle, and Kali happens to be the shortest because these cycles are progressively shortening, and as they shorten, they're accompanied by a corresponding deterioration in morals and ethics. That's the idea. So you have Satyug, Dwapar, Treta, and then Kal. Kal being the shortest and the most corrupt morally. And it is to that age that Guru Nanak is referring to, because we are all living, mythologically speaking, in the Kali Yuga. And within the Indian tradition, Guru Nanak is seen as the descending light of the divine, that it has descended on earth to dispel the darkness of this Kali Yuga. Kal Taran Guru Nanak Aya. And Bhai Gurdas, in his eulogy, speaks of rulers and religious leaders conniving together to turn on their subjects. The age, he says, is like the mouth of a dog feeding on a carcass. The rulers are like the fence devouring the crop that it is meant to protect. So it is against this backdrop that Guru Nanak was commissioned to come into the world according to Sikh tradition. So we see that Sikhi flourished in a milieu that is not quite unlike the conditions that we are looking at today. We see conflicting ideologies, abuse of power, economic corruption, social injustice. And Guru Nanak, in his Bani, has referred to the political and economic conditions of his time, the corruption, the injustice. As a matter of fact, in a very telling passage other than this one, he says he was working in Sultanpur Lodi, where he was in charge of the royal granary. And so he had a certain perspective because he was in a position of some authority. And he had a perspective that eventually shaped the way he looked at the world. And there is one example where he sees the inner workings and naked rapaciousness of the ruling elite, and he compares them to predatory animals. The deer, he says, the hawks and the government officials are clever. They lay a trap and capture their own kind. The kings are tigers and their courtiers are dogs. They go around harassing people, and the courtiers inflict wounds with their nails, and the dogs lick up the bile and blood. In God's court, they will be judged. Those who had violated the people's trust will be disgraced. So we see that Guru Nanak indicts the ruling elite, who were invaders from Central Asia, but he also indicts the official administrative machinery, which was drawn from the local population. And he indicts them because he is accusing them of conspiring with the invaders to exploit their own kind. So this passage has to be understood with that background. So he says, Kalkati Raje Kasai Taram Pankh Kar Udariya. The age is like a knife. Kalkati, Kati is a knife. The rulers are butchers. Raje Kasai. Virtue has taken flight. Taram is an all-encompassing term, but it implies right action, it implies virtue, it implies duty. And so he says, Taram Pankh Kar Udariya. Virtue has just taken flight, it's taken to the wings and gone. And in the dark night of falsehood, Kur Amavas. Amavas is when the moon is not visible. He says, the shining moon of truth, Sach Chandrama, Dise Nahi. I don't seem to see it. I can't find it. Where is it? And then he adds, How pal vikunni hoi adere raho na koi. In this darkness, I see no way. I am weary, frustrated, vikunni, from looking. Pal. How pal vikunni hoi. I'm frustrated. Trapped in ego, which how me. Kar dukh roi. And here is a comment on the state of the people. Trapped in ego, they weep in sorrow. Kaho Nanak, kin bid gat hoi. What is the way out? He poses that question. And interestingly enough, in this passage, it is Mahalla Tija, Guru Amar Das, that proposes an answer to the questions that Guru Nanak has raised. And he says, Kal Kirat Pargat Chanan Sansar, Gurmukh Koi Utare Par. So he's saying that in Kali, the only way is to light the lamp of virtues, the beacon of virtues and qualities, and it is that lamp that will light the world. In effect, what we are being told is to develop ourselves, empowering the individual to become the best that they can. Qualities, virtues, capacities, that is what has to be developed. But he also cautions, Gurmukh koi utare par, rare is that individual who will actually land on his feet, so to speak, who will be successful, because it requires the guidance of the Guru to actually rise above your haume or to transform your haume. And he talks about this as being a matter of grace at the end. That way, jisno nadar kare tis deva, Nanak Gurmukh Ratan so leva. Ratan is the culture of Naam, the jewel of Naam. The way is given to those who are graced. They receive this precious instruction by turning to the Gur enlightener. Gurbukh, to turn your face, in other words, to be Guru facing, to receive instruction and guidance. And then in the Pauri, a contrast is made between Bhaktan, the divine lovers who are dedicated to the culture of Nam, versus the state of the ordinary people who are crying in sorrow because they are trapped in their ego. Bhakta te sansariya jod kade na aya. There can be no association or comparison between divine lovers, those who are devoted to the self, and the worldly, because the devotees are committed to the self and therefore become receptive to grace. Sansari aap khwayan jini kood bol bol bekh khaya. The mortal beings are led astray. As a result, they speak or live untruth, which means they have pretensions and lead a toxic existence. They know not the way. Challan sar na janani. They only add the poison of anger and sensual desire to their lives. Kam krodh vis vadaya. And what do the divine lovers do? Bhagat karan har chakari jini andin naam dhyaya. That's the essence. The devotees who serve the self, their attention is fixed in self-knowledge day and night. And they become the slave of the slave. Dasana das hoike. Here a reference to the Guru. At the door of the Master, their face shines with brilliance. Mukha ujjale. A face shining with brilliance here is a figure of speech for those who have that wisdom. And through the testimony of the true word, a a-sabad-a-day, they look beautiful. So, Guruji has attributed the conditions of Kali Yuga essentially to egoic behavior, which haume kar dukh roye. And in the Japji, if you recall, Guru Nanak has described haume as a kurdipal, a wall of falsehood that stands in the way and inhibits our cooperation with Hukam. If you remember in the previous passage, we were talking about the need to align and attune ourselves with Hukam, the law that governs this universe, is to be in sync with it. And haume is the barrier. And haume, it turns out, is none other than our own sense of self as being an independent entity. That's the delusion we have. And then from this delusion stem egocentric actions. And that is what traps us in this cause and effect, in this cycle that we get trapped, that we spoke about in the previous Shabad. And in the Japji, Guruji reminds us that haume cannot be tamed by resorting to thought or reasoning through rituals, pilgrimages, yogic practice, self-denial, self-gratification, nor with clever mental guides. So he's asking here, what is the way out? Kaho Nanak kin bid gat hoi. So, in the age of Kal, as we have seen, the third Guru responds. This is a dialogue. Kalikirit Pargat Chanan Satsar. Become a Bhagat. Become a divine lover. Someone who is dedicated to the culture of Naam. Andin Naam Dhyaya. Now, Naam has multi-layered meanings, connotations, but for our purposes, let's regard it as self-knowledge. And Naam cannot be grasped directly by perception or the cognitive process. We've talked about that in our previous Shabad. So to access Naam, one needs spiritual knowledge, Gyan, that Gurbani calls Gyan. And this knowledge is embodied in Naam itself, but it is expressed as Shabad, or the word, which is the written testimony. And thus we see that Naam and Shabad are two sides of the same coin, and often used synonymously in Gurbani. And Shabad, in turn, expresses itself as Guru, the enlightener, and it is the Guru that is directly accessible to humans. So it is essential for us to turn to the enlightener, to the Guru, who here has been referred to as Das. So that's how a Sikh needs to progress. The Guru is a manifestation of the Sabad and Naam are actually synonymous, but that is the passage. That said, until the next time, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.